Let's talk a little bit about triggers. We're out here in Vandalia, Ohio, doing a class for a protection detail, and just watching one of the shooters kind of struggle over a couple of issues really comes down to knowing the machine and what's going on with his pistol, etc. So I just wanted to show you guys something about Glocks, virtually any firearm, right? So with the plethora of aftermarket products that are out there, a lot of times people correct problems, obviously, with a piece of equipment. They'll put a drop-in trigger in or something like that to even it out, or they'll bring it to a gunsmith and have it smoothed out. If it's a 1911 or some other kind of firearm. But with a Glock, they all have kind of a personality, but pretty consistently what you can depend on with a Glock. If I take my Glock, okay, stock trigger, you can look at this, and if you watch my trigger finger, you'll see first slack, and then a short take up, and then the trigger will actually, the striker will be released. Okay, so I'm gonna do that one more time, see if Michelle can get the light on it from this angle and you'll be able to see it. So again, if you watch my finger, you're seeing slack, take up, and then the gun's gonna actually fire, okay? So just being intimate enough with your firearm to understand what's going on with that, all right? Now, after we've triggered that, so if you look at my draw, when I'm gonna draw the firearm, as the weapon comes out, obviously I'm gonna get to my pivot point, I'm gonna turn my wrist. As I drive out to the target, that's when I'm taking up slack, and then I'll take up, and then just shy of full extension, that's when the gun would actually fire, right? So if I'm here, I'll move slowly, I come up, slack comes out right here, there's my firing. Okay, so you can see that all I'm doing is I'm being familiar enough with my trigger to understand slack comes out, there's take up, boom, there's the firing, okay, and understanding that. So what I'm telling you is to get to know your gun, right? To take in a dryer fire mode, don't have any live ammo around, don't have anything going on like that. Literally cock the weapon, look at it, look at your trigger finger, and then bring it through the whole stroke until either the hammer moves forward or the striker's released, so if it's a Glock. So all I want you to do to get to know that trigger is to watch your finger, add pressure, and see what the difference is in the pressure you need to put on the trigger, etc. And then do that multiple times so you are intimately familiar with how the weapon operates, right? That's gonna dictate a lot with how you draw and what's going on downrange. Now, topic of conversation is always trigger reset. Do you do trigger reset? Do you not do trigger reset? We're believers in trigger reset in training, and if someone is conditioned to the point that has motor memory to do trigger reset, I don't think there's anything wrong with that in an actual shooting. But we use that as a mechanism in training, like a lot of firearms trainers do, to make sure that the shooter is doing proper follow-through. So in the case of the student I was just talking about earlier, he was having difficulty remembering that if you fire one shot, you're actually getting two sight pictures, right? The one you shoot, the one you confirm. Until I had him start doing hard trigger resets. So trigger resets, I mean, most of you probably know this, but all I'm doing is, as the weapon fires, I'm gonna hold the trigger to the rear. So I'm gonna hold it to the rear. And then, obviously, the slide would come back and the trigger shoe would push my finger forward. So as I cock the weapon, watch my trigger finger, it's gonna come out and you'll actually hear it click. Now, at that point on the trigger, there is no more slack, there is no more take up. Listen closely. All right, now watch again. I'm holding it to the rear, the weapon's gonna cycle, the trigger shoe's gonna push out, it's reset. And again, there's no slack and there's no take up. So again, as soon as I press the trigger, the gun goes off. Now compare that to this. Slack, take up, shot. Huge, huge difference, huge difference. Okay, so again, as you're thinking about what's going on with your pistol and as you're working these problems, knowing your gun is super important. Now, can you do some things with aftermarket triggers and all that stuff? Of course you can. You can always make your weapon better. You can always also make your weapon more unreliable, which is something that we don't want to do. But understanding the basics of how the trigger works, what you're trying to do with trigger reset to get your follow through, all makes sense. So we just thought we'd take a couple of minutes and talk to you guys about that. Thanks a lot. We'll see you again on YouTube soon.